This FM 104.3. Good to meet you.
Medase, Nedi Kaimama, Obia Fishapa, and Kanka, Republic of Gamaga for Mobia Fishapa. I say, na, a sick as 72 na ayakama. Because, no, Jessica 72 and Guia, a whole biao. You know, we are all in this country. It affects everybody. Obiana hano. Until medium empire by next year. Even though with the program we are going to go for EDA, and shedan ye better, sir. But yeah, Bompire saying Yankupon would give us the capacity to deal with precious naibevano. Because we're going to go completely austere. And that would mean Sebi, I won't check a crab. But having said so, no, my main that's our bond switching program here are buying Akoshazi. Mean kind of be brave, but I kind of kitwi. As I say, it's an ongoing process. Nidi can you say beside who said DNA and Kodrus happen pensui. It is because our debt became unsustainable. So you see, your debt is unsustainable. Let's just say, wa kobo bisia and wa koboka ama nutriano ya yoding. Because sabi the income nutria, the revenues nutria. Nti se revenues no nkosoro na kano sura na ekwa. It gets to a point your repayment and your debt burden becomes so huge say nutriano ya yeding. Emi say enuna edi enkodu san pempensui. Enti when we went seeking IMF relief program no, they had to conduct, which they normally do at the IFN DSA, which is debt sustainability analysis. Omuye no mu hu say bibia ye kano akoduru no ya hadwene. Enti ese ye bibi fa ho as a precondition to get our program na ye pese ye ni IMF ye no. Nti there are several options available to government. Dear na beye. And me say in the moment no near buying a dream who say metimi aye no was to engage in some debt I can say bond exchange program and what you otherwise would call debt bond swap. Now there are certain things that guide and that determine how this operates. So we are bond issuer, and in this case, are buying a bond issuer. No, depending on the type of bond that Ube issue. No, if it's a callable bond and a redeemable bond, you can at some point, if you realize that interest rates conform, you can decide to call your initially floated bonds. No, now with your principal. No, then reissue new bonds because the interest rates would have come down. Esana kana obono because maybe the interest rates on the earlier bonds was low. Until kana na ese utuya by the maturity and a maturation of the bond no na above form. But near Emma ye kakran say it would seem say government securities are offloaded, they are not necessarily redeemable bonds. You can still have a debt bond swap if the type of bond you issued no any redeemable and it's not callable. Name the fundamental requirement is the bondholders must be in agreement. Until Minuya Kabila any Minuya opinion Duncan Adrian said there ought to have been some prior conversations. Because Sebi, these are investors. I say among 40 I say every bondholder is an investor. Or pemfaswonti na obi a investment be a pemfaswo. Nti say pemfaswa na wakoto bonds. Now all of a sudden abansi I am issuing new bonds to replace the old ones no. Name in 2023 there's going to be a zero coupon rate, which means that onyam faswo bia in 2023. What is here? And in 2024 now we nya 5% and from 2025 econo now we nya 10%. Not just 2023 the bondholders omukosruba forma enya dia ombenya mfaso on their bonds. Until if I'm an investor and I stand to lose money because of a debt bond swapper, I buy a year, at least I deserve some explanation. I deserve some conversation. Until now, me say acquire SMP, no, say oh. Na this program ba individual bondholders will be affected, corporate bonds will be affected. Ni say at the end of the day, the first year of that program there's going to be zero coupon rate and a zero interest rate. So there won't be any yield on your investment. We had the for so investments no so. Now there are other terms associated with that program. You see, of course, they are not saying say unlike in other forms of bonds like Namidi can a recallable bond, for example, you bet your principal now. But in this case, sub bond switching on your principal name will issue you with a new type of bond. Until you see Canada unsanka, name yabema new bond that will mature at a later date. And we share maturity periods now. Yes, you 2027, 2029, 2032, and all of that. And nuna air hard, because obi wa na dream say ebi na investment would mature in 2023 until or the plans nyina equal to the dividends are any principal obenya at the end of the investment na what they are in the plans after you see unsanka osika no nemom there are even new interest terms and nuna air hard and I feel say conversation is key. I am one of the keen supporters of the fact that you have finance minister wabre ohia humi ese okojina humi because why on e-levy sana start here yempini then it was after the fact in fact the consultation process was an afterthought and I na me feel say the experience I in free sir adi no nanka it would guide the way we go about the bond switching program. You be kind any bondholders edin komo what near the NBC what can we do yet here because look baby you I don't know how would have been able to meet the conditions that would entitle us to participate in the program because they were telling us we should be able to have a program that would at least bring our debt levels back to sustainable levels. Nadia no betima in the moment. I mean, who are deported unless we miraculously yenye sikabia ebe free baby without strings. A bedding. Yeah, and debt forgiveness. And interestingly, Unim says, I did some work on debt forgiveness and I mean not debt forgiveness, but debt relief packages and economic growth. And I mean who say there is a tendency for a relapse. One say you forgive you debt now. The period within which awunye sikana nankese wodi ko tuano. It encourages growth, but the very minute the program is done, man 2 years to 3 years, you'd see say they start accumulating debt again.
Then a man basa.
Mintias here. What is here? Until a idea our creditors now begin to say, look, debt forgiveness necessarily is not a good thing for indebtedness because almost hard live no more hard more chance instead of them to stay on sustainable debt levels path they feel there is a lot of fiscal space until you bet me asha CBM borrow and now with access to capital market international capital markets it's easy once we are credit where the kakran they are acquired bema until we become loan addicts and once you are an addict yes in say you do call rehab krana would the sebi and with all due respect to people trying to come out of addiction problems but you tell who say and you tell who say people who are addicts or call rehab bar ajim paibo ana aji nyamibim the tendency to relapse is always very high. It is a similar scenario to amamaya sabi omodika na yedi omokano ache omono because you are a loan addict no I will say relief which is your rehabilitation no eba wi a say ade mi twa kakra zenya hwe mami nkoji kakra metimi amani say ade minya no bebri men kakra en kakra ya na ade enkodu sa pempensu yi. Until I am of the view say consultations are very important. People will have haircuts and no dear. Because we are recording 0 coupon rate in a particular year. Now we expect to say you'd get some dividends. That's a haircut. But ninyi as I jitu say, yanyen sana, what is the other alternative? Because IMF is our way out as we speak. Now Ghana is not credit worthy to be able to access capital in the international capital markets. We share ratings now. And nuna, people who want to buy your bonds, every investor, whether portfolio investor or any type of investor, or by investing in your country, they do what they call country risk analysis. And one of it is they do economic analysis. Is your country, solvent enough? And what is the tendency for default in this annual? And ratings in a year or more share. And your ratings, at this particular point in time, and yet the best. Until Obia or per se, or investing your bonds, and now back and grab some investment with government, not or dream who to. Until IMF nebet me up so that we get back to baby anaya one. And how do you do that? IMF air catch out for you to even be able to access the program, because there are stages of approval. As for staff level agreement, because until there's the executive board approval, any program. And almost answer we should be able to at least set in motion a processor, AD and debt levels, back to sustainable levels. And in the absence of SAR exchange programming, I do not know what else would have done. I am not saying this is the best option, because yetie futuo in the past, yetie ya ebia and can do SAR pempensui, but abewi, what next do we do? And Yehuni said this is our only way out. There are people who invested money. They deserve an explanation. And Mijidi said, look, Ghanaians are patriotic. The only near here say you tell them, say, look, and ye pet say we are undergoing bond switching programming. In this absence, DNA imagine say the entire economy will collapse between eno, whereby ABR you would lose some money in the first year, maybe earn lesser in the following year, and then begin to earn more in subsequent years. Compare that to say economy now collapsing and we should seek completely. Which one would you prefer? I'm sure that if that conversation was had, Ghana for look, they are reasonable, and bondholders very reasonable. Maybe and compare make your suggestions be say whilst we help the efforts at achieving that debt sustainability. Intermediate, the problem is the conversation, and secondly, if we na yenti and also kahon and
FM 104.3 Would you mean